Tonight we're going to read the book of Yahweh, chapter 10, verse 1 reads, Truly, truly, I say to you, he who does not enter through the door into the sheepfold, but climbs up by another way, that one is a thief and a robber. This is a very important chapter. Well, as I always say, right? They are all important. It's just when we start one, and I remember everything that needs to be said and regarding everything here. There is a lot that we can take from each verse. First, remember that Yahweh said, I am the first and the last. So this chapter has a lot to do with that. Like I always mentioned as well, the fact that the book of John was written in the fourth level of interpretation, the highest or deepest one, which is Sod, which means mystery or secret. And therefore it reveals a lot of secrets, spiritual secrets. And when it comes to the story itself written in this book, Yahweh is telling us what Mashiach went through and what he did in the literal sense, yet in the spiritual sense, this book, the story itself is very different from the other ones. It has a lot of, like several stories that are not found in the other books, and other stuff that is found in the other gospels, as they would say or call them, um, is not found in this book. Is because spiritually this book is representing prophetically the coming and ministry of the second manifestation. So this chapter, this part about being the shepherd, which is the point here that we're about to see, is only mentioned in this book. And um, I repeat, that has to do with the coming of the second manifestation of Yahweh on this earth. So, going back to the verse, truly, truly, I say to you, he who does not enter through the door into the sheepfold, but climbs up by another way, that one is a thief and a robber. Now, I don't want to get ahead of myself, which I normally do, because he himself will explain every single thing. But there are certain points that I want you guys to remember for when we go through that. First, um, the importance of the mere fact that it says here that the the shepherd, which he hasn't mentioned, so I already went ahead of myself, but uh, it says he who does not enter through the door into the sheepfold. So it's a very important deal to go through the door into the sheepfold. The sheepfold representing, right, the congregation. But climbs up by another way, that one is a thief and a robber. So the one that doesn't go through the door but goes in another way, a different way, is a thief and a robber. So there are 2 points very important here. One, that Yahushua said, I am the way. And he is about to say that he is the door. But he also says that the second manifestation, the Son of Man, would come like a thief in the night. Like, right? So he's not a thief, but he will be seen as a thief. So it's interesting that Yahushua mentions a thief as one who does not go through the door into the sheepfold. So that is something connected to how they will accuse the last of being false, a false Messiah, a false prophet, because that's what the thief and the robber is, what he's representing. The one who is going to try to steal the sheep from Yahweh, that is the enemy, who manifests as the false Messiah. So he is the true thief, yet the last comes as a thief in the night. So continuing, it says, but he who enters through the door is the shepherd of the sheep. Remember that David was a shepherd, Moshe was a shepherd, Jacob was a shepherd. And we could say that almost all of them were shepherds, but there are some who stand out from all, and those are normally connected to the last. Like I mentioned, Yitzhak represents Yahushua the first. Jacob represents the last, and we know Jacob how he took care of the sheep of his father-in-law Laban, right? And he changed his salary. And then we know the story of how Moshe was taking care of the sheep of his father-in-law as well, and that's when Yahweh called him on the bush. Then others like David, he was with the sheep when Shemuel came into his house to find the king of Israel. So those three represent the coming of the last. When we see Shemuel and David, King David, Shemuel represents the first and David the last because Yahushua came as the high priest. He is the anointed one, but also the anointing. He is the one who gives the oil, the Ruach HaKodesh. He is the one who made the sacrifice for our sins. Um, his name is powerful. Shemuel means his name is mighty. It also means he who is heard by the mighty one. And Yahushua is the one who is heard by Yahweh. That's why we pray to Yahweh in his name, because of his merit through his death and resurrection by fulfilling the law. And therefore, um, we pray in his name. That is the high priest, Yahushua, according to the order of Melchizedek. But then comes the last, who comes as a melech, as a king, like David. And remember that Yahushua said that he is not the branch or the son of David, but the root of David. When he asked the Pharisees whose son was Messiah, and they said David's son, and he said, "How is David his father if David himself calls him sovereign in Psalm 110 when he says, Yahweh said to my sovereign, sit on my right hand until I put your enemies as your footstool." So David represents the last, praying to Yahweh in the name of Yahushua, who is at the right hand. So, continuing here, but he who enters through the door is the shepherd of the sheep. So we know, like I said, several representations of shepherds in the scriptures. They all represent that manifestation that Yahushua is revealing here. The one who is coming for the sheep, the congregation of Yahweh. But he has to go through the door, and that is key. Then he says, the doorkeeper opens for him. Remember how John the Baptist prepared the way for Mashiach. In the end times, there are two witnesses, and one is Eliyahu, who already came as John the Baptist, but would come back in the end as he was prophesied in Malachi, and also Mashiach said it. So the doorkeeper opens for him, and obviously also in the uh, most spiritual or highest way of seeing this, Yahweh is the one who decides who enters through the door and who doesn't, who accepts the Messiah and who doesn't, who sees the Messiah and who doesn't. Like when the um, those men who wanted to enter the house of Lot and take the two messengers, right, who represented two witnesses, they weren't able to find the door. So the same happens with those who are wicked. They are not able to find repentance. They are not able to find Messiah to really understand. Obviously, they know about it because they know the scripture exists. They know that someone came and died and was resurrected, although they may not believe it or whatever, but they know about the story just till they reject it. It's because they haven't been given the sight, which is the faith, in order to actually believe or see the door. So, but he who enters through the door is the shepherd of the sheep. The doorkeeper opens for him, and the sheep hear his voice. And he calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. So, just like Eliyahu as doorkeeper opening the way, or like I said, Yahweh in the heavens opening the way in the sense of opening his eyes through faith in order to see the door and go through it, which is Mashiach, as I am getting ahead of myself. But the doorkeeper opens for him, the shepherd, and the sheep hear his voice. Remember that Yahushua HaMashiach is the word. The last is the voice, word and voice, arm and hand, brain and heart, priest and king, sword and bow, water and fire, Yakin and Boaz, and etc. Right? So, and the sheep hear his voice. He doesn't say the sheep see him. He says the sheep hear his voice because faith comes through hearing. So the sheep will hear the voice and will have faith in Mashiach, in the true doctrine, of course. And he calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. By name, as in he knows them all directly, which would happen spiritually, of course, because there will be a connection between the last and all the 144,000. And also, not only that, he has to reveal the name of Yahweh to his sheep. So through that name, we all know each other as brethren, for we all recognize one name as our father and one name as our uh, oldest brother, right? So the doorkeeper opens for him, and the sheep hear his voice, and he calls his own sheep by name and leads them out of this world, out of slavery, out of sin. And when he has brought out his own sheep, he goes before them, and the sheep follow him because they know his voice. And when he has brought out his own sheep, and this is important because later on we will see that there are other sheep, but first his own, as he came for his own and his own rejected him, for instance. He has brought out his own sheep, as in the wheat, the 144,000, as we see in the harvest of Revelation 14, which the wheat, which are the 144,000, are the ones who are taken first. And when he has brought out his own sheep, he goes before them. Remember that the last who seals the 144,000, he has to die before they are harvested, right? Days before, during Yom Kippur. So, and when he has brought out his own sheep, he goes before them. And obviously that means that he's walking before them. But obviously, if you're walking before a group of sheep, you will reach wherever you're going first. So that is, he will finish the ministry first. They will kill him. He will resurrect. He will go up. He will expel Satan from heaven, and then the chosen few will flee and be harvested during the second Exodus. So, and when he has brought out his own sheep, he goes before them, and the sheep follow him because they know his voice. This is also connected to Micah chapter 2. All right, here we go. Um, so here, Micah chapter 2, verse 12 and 13 says, I, first person, I shall certainly gather all of you, gather during the harvest, the gathering, the congregation, as the shepherd. O Jacob, I shall bring together the remnant of Israel. Jacob represents the many, Israel the few. That's why the remnant of Israel. Put them together, put them together like sheep of the fold, like a flock in the midst of their pasture. They being noisy because of men, right? Because of how many they will be. This is very important. The breach maker shall go up before them. The breach maker shall go up before them, right? Just like it said here. And when he has brought out his own sheep, he goes before them. The breach maker, which is then the shepherd, because um, we just saw in John how he goes through the door, and the door is Yahushua, as he is about to say. Yahushua, through his death and resurrection, opened the door. So he made breach for us to be able to get out of this reality, right? So Yahushua became the door. He would be, and in fact, well, let me just show something right here. The breaker. You see, parats. This is the verb, right? But here um, is using it as a noun. So it says Allah haporates. He will ascend the the breaker or the breach maker. He who made the breach. Right now, like look at this, right? This word right here, porets. Now, if we go to um, well, let me. Okay, just a second. In Genesis 38, we see the birth of a person. And let me put it in parallel. Look for the Hebrew. So you see at the end of this chapter, we see that, and it came to be as he drew back his hand, this other son represents the last, the second manifestation, the hand of Yahweh. That see, his brother came out, and she said, how did you break through? How did you break through? We just saw about the breaker. Porates. This breach be upon you. So his name was called Peretz, right? So that's 29. In Hebrew, it will be, you see, Peretz. So you see, is the same word, however, pronounced differently because here is a noun, here is the well, it's also a noun in fact, but meaning the breach itself, and this is the one who makes the breach, right? Who opens it. Well, in fact, we could say it means the same. Like it's being pronounced differently, just in case, but it would pretty much mean the same in both because here the reason why they gave him that name was because he was able to open the breach and pass through before his brother who had put his hand already out. So the hand of his brother came out, and then it went in, and then Peretz came out. So this here appears as Paretz, which has to do with the fact that it's the end of the verse. So that's why they put the A over there. But it normally is called Peretz. Um, so you see, he opened a breach. So he was called his name Paretz. Now, if we are to go and Matthew, let's use Matthew 1. We have the genealogy of Mashiach, right? And we have that um, Abraham begot Yitzhak, Yitzhak begot Yaakov, Yaakov begot Yahudah and his brothers. Yahudah begot Peretz and Serach, the two that we just saw. The hand of Serach represents the last, and Peretz by Tamar. And then it says Peretz begot Hezron, and Hezron begot Ram. So we see that Mashiach is a descendant of Peretz because Peretz opened a breach. Mashiach became that breach for us to get out of sin, get out of hell, get out of this world. He is the door. All right. So now we see here in Micah, right? The breach maker, we just saw it here as well. Haporates. So we see the connection of this with Mashiach, right? And both as first and last, or as he who came before all of us 2,000 years ago. The breach maker shall go up before them. They shall break out and pass through the gate, right? So now that gives us more info because as we are about to see right here, Yahushua the Messiah who came 2,000 years ago, the first, he is the door. So they shall break out and pass through the gate, through the door, and go out by it. And their sovereign, the king, the last, the branch of David, pass before them as the shepherd in the parable that Mashiach is telling them in John 10, with Yahweh at their head through Mashiach, who is the head of the congregation, right? So here we have Mashiach. The head would be Mashiach, Yahweh, the creator and father, the sovereign, the last. And obviously, the gate is again Mashiach. So going back here, and I hope this you guys remember these two verses, which are very important from the old covenant. And now we have here in John. And when he has brought out his own sheep, he goes before them, and the sheep follow him because they know his voice. They know his voice. So the 144,000 will recognize the last through the voice. And I don't mean the sound of it, but the words that come out through that voice, the teaching, the doctrine. And when he has brought out his own sheep, he goes before them, and the sheep follow him because they know his voice. And they all and they I'm sorry, and they shall by no means follow a stranger. This is important because Yahushua, when he went up before that, he told the disciples that false prophets and false messiahs would appear, would go around. They would be strangers. But the true sheep of Yahweh, will not follow a stranger, even though obviously many will call the last a stranger. Just like we actually read yesterday in Isaiah, how he would speak with a strange language, with a foreign language, meaning that he would appear not speaking in Hebrew. And they shall by no means follow a stranger, but shall flee from him. This is important as well because remember that in Matthew, Mark, and Luke, which one of the stories that I mentioned, that chapter, which is not found in the book of John, he speaks about when the abomination of desolation, which is the false Messiah, appears in the world, and everybody's saying the Christ has come, he's here, he's there. Do not go, but flee from him. So here we see, and they shall by no means follow a stranger when that moment happens, when the false Messiah appears in the world, but shall flee from him during the second Exodus, because they do not know the voice of strangers. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but um, I have. Well, I haven't had the pleasure to see it in person, like live, but I've seen it in video. How sheep react to the voice of the shepherd, and it's amazing. Like for instance, I saw one video where, um, like the well, he was taking the camera was taking like a lot of space, and the sheep were all scattered throughout all that mountain, and the shepherd was right there looking at him, and somebody had the camera, and then people, there were several people there, so he told one of them, like, call the sheep, do this sound, and he would do it, and the sheep wouldn't pay, would pay no mind at all. Then like three different people did it. They tried to call the attention of the sheep, and they paid no attention. But as soon as the shepherd did it, the same sound that they were doing, they all recognized the voice, and they all came like super fast, and it was very amazing. So obviously, in the time of Mashiach, that was more common, that knowledge, because most people either lived um, through it, like doing it, or knew somebody who worked right with sheep. So Yahushua gives a parable that they all should understand, but still they don't understand, even though they have seen it so much, right? So here Yahushua is using that metaphor of how the sheep actually have such a keen eye, I mean ear, to be able to recognize the voice of their shepherd. and they could hear the same sound, or at least apparently, right, according to like regular ears, uh, and not pay any attention until they hear the actual shepherd. So, and they shall by no means follow a stranger, but shall flee from him, because they do not know the voice of strangers. So, false doctrines, strange doctrines, like to the chosen few, will be weird, like, well, as it is, right? They like, thankfully, thanks to the Father and the Ruach that He has given us, we just see those things that the world follows and loves and cherish, uh, and we realize that is not, it doesn't have any value spiritually in the true sense, right? It's all emotion, it's all tradition, and many other things, but not uh, knowledge, wisdom, knowledge of the Father, Creator, and His Son. So, verse 6, Yahushua used this figure of speech, but they did not know what he had been saying to them, right? So even though I'm sure they knew a lot about sheep, a lot about shepherds, a lot about thieves, they couldn't make the connection. Like, why is he talking about that? Like, we know about that already. Why is he saying that? Right? They couldn't see the connection spiritually to Mashiach. Yahushua therefore said to them again, truly, truly, I say to you, I am the door of the sheep. So, like I said, here we have the first manifestation of Yahweh, as he prophesied in Isaiah 3 times. I am the first and the last. I am the first and I will be with the last. And he also prophesies in Ezekiel, Yirmiyahu, Zechariah, that he would appear on this earth again, not just once, but twice on earth as a human. So here we see the first, Yahushua, talking about his manifestation as the door. For the shepherd to go in, there needs to be a door, right? It makes just sense. It's logical, right? For the shepherd to be able to go into the sheepfold to take the sheep out, there needs to be a door made first. And that's why Yahushua first mentioned that, right? I say to you, he who does not enter through the door. So the door is very important for the shepherd to be able to manifest, for the shepherd to be able to enter. The door had to be there. So Yahushua, as the first, says, I am the door. So truly, truly, I say to you, I am the door of the sheep. All who came before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep did not hear them. This is amazing as well. Yesterday, also, we were reading Isaiah again, um, and we were talking about sacrifices and what they meant and why they were given and to whom they were given, etc. Um, and I mentioned how King David, knew about that. Yahweh revealed it to him. He wrote it in Psalms, even though he was the one who had the idea of the temple, which was built by his son Shlomo, which was the place where most sacrifices were done. So um, it is amazing to read this. Yahushua says, all who came before me, meaning all the prophets, are thieves and robbers, but the sheep did not hear them. That's why they killed them, right? And he's not saying that they were evil, not at all. But they did not have a door for them to go through. So they had to do it like through the window. Through the window, right? They had to do it any other way. um, so um, they were spiritually, to this reality, thieves and robbers. Now, not only because like, I don't want anybody to get anything confused. Remember how I had mentioned that John the Baptist, he is good in the sense, well, not good, righteous, because Yahushua said that no one was greater than him of those born of women, right? But the smallest in the kingdom of Yahweh would be greater than him. So John the Baptist ended the time of the flesh. And John the Baptist is a torch, scripture says. Scripture also says that Halel, known as Lucifer, is a torch. So when we see a bunch of other connections that I'm not going to mention unless you guys ask, which I think you already know, but if you want to ask, you can go ahead. Um, John the Baptist represents Lucifer. His what his job was to prepare the way for the Messiah, but he wanted to keep the, and I don't mean John the Baptist, I mean Lucifer, the praise for himself, and that's why he got his head cut off, right? John the Baptist in this case, to represent that Lucifer was being cut off. So um, the prophets pretty much represented angels, right? Because they were sent to the people. When it comes to the true prophets, they were great and they will be in the kingdom. They are the elders, the 24 elders around the throne in Revelation. But when they manifested, there was no door because Mashiach had not manifested to become the door. So they were seen taken as thieves and robbers spiritually. So they went through what they went through, being rejected. Now, on the other hand, in the negative sense, before Mashiach, who is the Son of Yahweh, came himself to the earth, people, humanity, had only connected with angels, had only communicated with angels. And many of those angels wanted to rob the steam of Yahweh. They wanted to steal the honor of Yahweh for themselves, the faith of humanity, becoming gods, the idols, and all of that. So they were thieves and robbers. All those who were seen as, I repeat, as they would say, God. So all who came before me are thieves and robbers. But the sheep did not hear them. The true sheep did not hear them. I am the door. So he repeats it because it's necessary to understand that he fulfilled that part. He himself, Yahushua the first, 2,000 years ago, became the door. Remember that the the fourth letter of the alphabet is a door, right? Is a door, and it's called door, in fact. Dalet, but Delet is door, so it's the same. Um, right? You see, that is the name of the letter. That is the word for door. Anyways, this letter is the door. So there are a lot of connections, and eventually, well, when we talk about words in Hebrew and all of that, just remember that that letter is a door. And Yahushua said, "I am the door." So it's like saying, "I am the Dalet." I am that letter, right? It needs the numerical value 4. It has the numerical value 4 because it's the fourth letter in the alphabet. And remember that the name of Yahushua has the numerical value 391, right? Yahushua, because that's 10, that's 5, that's 6, that's 300, and that's 70. So we have 391. If we add 3 plus 9, we have 12. Plus 1, we have 13. And if we add 3 plus 1, we have 4. So he is the Dalit, he is the 4, right? And I repeat, there are many other ways which we can see that. But going back. So I am the door. Whoever enters through me, meaning through faith in his work, in his death and resurrection, whoever enters through me, he shall be saved and shall go in and shall go out and find pasture. So Yahushua, the Messiah, him as the person who did everything that he did, who fulfilled the Torah, he is the door. The faith in him is the door. And the confession of his name is the key, right? Because a door needs a key. The key is the name. The name is the word of Yahweh, as Revelation 19:13 says. So Yahushua is the key to open that door by confessing and believing, as Romans 10:10 says. So I am the door. Whoever enters through me, he shall be saved and shall go in and shall go out. It's interesting because it's like saying you will be free to go in and out. In the other reality, when we get to enter new heavens and new earth, the 144,000 all points to them having more access to the heavenly reality, as in go in, go out, but also um, it connects with the key of David, which opens and no one closes, and closes and no one opens. So with the key, you have the authority to go in, go out. But yeah, another thing that I wanted to say, how it says, and shall go in through the door and shall go out, like saying that through Mashiach, we are able to go into another reality in order to go out of this reality of sin, in order to find pasture, the true um, life, shalom, etc. So then it says, the thief does not come except to steal and to slaughter. How interesting, because that is synonym of sacrifice. As I just mentioned, the animal sacrifices that were performed for angels, even though they were needed for a representation of what Mashiach had to go through, the sacrifices of animals were not given to Yahweh, but to angels. And Yahweh himself says it, and David and other prophets. So, how interesting. The thief, as in those angels who want the honor of Yahweh for themselves, the thief does not come except to steal the esteem of Yahweh, and to slaughter people through the accusation of sin with the law, to slaughter animals, and to destroy faith, to destroy this reality. Well, humanity mainly. I have come, I have come, the door, Yahushua, that they might possess life. So you see the clear difference, the contrast between the false Messiah, the enemy, and Yahushua. The thief does not come except to steal. Yahushua came to give his life as the price for our soul. The enemy comes to slaughter. Yahushua came to allow the world to slaughter him, to sacrifice him in order to give us life. The enemy comes to destroy. Yahushua is the creator, for everything was created through him, for he is the word. And when Yahweh created, he said with the word, let there be light, let there be this, let there be that. I have come that they might possess life, and that they might possess it beyond measure. That's beautiful. Beyond measure. Because this life has a measure of 70 to 80 years, and some, by the favor of Yahweh or otherwise, get to live more than that. So, the thief does not come except to steal, to slaughter, and to destroy. I have come that they might possess life, and that they might possess it beyond measure. Like I said, this reality, the life in this reality is temporal, so it has a measure, and it's very short compared to eternity. And even worse, when we take into account that there is wickedness in this reality, in this world, in this life, there is injustice, there is sadness, there is pain, there is uh, all of the things that pretty much are perceived as negative because of the flesh or whatever it may be. So Yahushua came to give us life beyond measure, meaning eternal life. Then, after making that clear, comparing or showing the contrast between the enemy, the false Messiah, and the true Messiah, who said to be the door. So, this verse right here, as the separation between revealing the first manifestation and the the role that he would fulfill as a door. And now, after this verse, as this separation, comes the second manifestation. Now he says, I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep, as David was willing to do it several times, and he ended up killing like very um, strong animals, bears, lions, to save the sheep. I am the good shepherd. So Yahushua just said to be the door, and now he says he's the good shepherd. In the beginning, he said that the good shepherd has to go through the door. So the door has to be there for the shepherd to go through. So he, Yahushua, came as the door, and the second manifestation of Yahweh, represented here by Yahushua, of course, would be the good shepherd. So Yahushua is mentioned in both. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. Just like Yahushua gave his life, we know that the witness, like Moshe, the last, has to die as well. And also for the sheep, for the 144,000. But the hireling, in not being a shepherd, one who does not own the sheep, sees the wolf, the enemy, coming and leaves the sheep and flees. And the wolf snatches the sheep and scatters them. So he who is hired, who is paid to do the job of taking care of the sheep, he does it for the money, not for the sheep. So when the wolf comes, when the danger comes, when the rejection comes, when the enemy wants to kill that messenger, if that is not a messenger but a hireling, somebody who is getting just paid for that, he will just flee and leave the sheep to be destroyed by the wolf. But the hireling, and not being a shepherd, one who does not own the sheep, sees the wolf coming and leaves the sheep and flees. And the wolf snatches the sheep and scatters them. Now the hireling flees because he is a hireling and is not concerned about the sheep. He is not concerned about the sheep. I am the good shepherd. So he, just like he mentioned to be the door twice, now he mentions to be the good shepherd twice. Remember that the name of Yahweh has 4 letters. So I am the door. I am the door. I am the good shepherd. I am the good shepherd. Obviously, it's not this, it's Yahweh, but translator how it works. So um, remember that this is, as we can separate as well, first and last. As you guys know, let me find the name Yahweh in pictographic. Let's hope we find a good image. In the pictograph, you see how it is a hen, a person, a nail, and another person, saying behold. So in the name we have behold, nail, behold, hen, right? The nail that will go through the hen, we need to see it, meaning have faith in it in the sacrifice. But also we can see that Yahweh would appear twice, as first and last. Yah, the first, Weh, the last. This has the numerical value 10, so it connects to the commandments. Yahushua is the arm of Yahweh who came to fulfill all the commandments as a man. This is a Vav, and it represents the number 6 as well, and the son of man, because the man was created, Adam was created on the 6th day. So here we have the one who would come at the end of history, at the end of the 6th millennium, as the son of man, in person as the last. So in the name itself, Yahweh, we have first and last. So I am the door, I am the door, I am the good shepherd, I am the good shepherd. And I know mine, and mine know me. And I know mine, and mine know me. Even as the Father knows me, and I know the Father. even as the Father knows me and I know the Father. So just like Yahweh knows the Son, which is, we could say, obvious, and the Son knows the Father as he revealed, the same way does the shepherd know his sheep and the sheep know their shepherd. Even as the Father knows me and I know the Father, and I lay down my life for the sheep. And other sheep I have. This is important. Like I said, he was mentioning his own sheep at the beginning. Now he mentions that he has another sheep. And other sheep I have, which are not of this fold. So here, Yahushua was revealing that he not only came for Israel, but also for the Gentiles, right? Also, this reveals that he came for the few. Well, in fact, when he came the first time, he said, and this is the blood that is spilled for the many. But he also comes for few, the few and the many. In Revelation 7, we see that the 144,000 are mentioned, and then the great multitude is mentioned, for whom Yahweh will extend the tent, as in the other sheepfold that he is gathering and uniting with the first sheepfold, with the first sheep mentioned in this chapter. So, and other sheep I have which are not of this fold, I have to bring them as well, and they shall hear my voice. So it says, I repeat, and other sheep I have which are not of this fold, as in he came for certain sheep during the first manifestation, and now during the second manifestation, he has to come for other sheep. So that's why when he started talking about the good shepherd, which refers to the last, he mentions the other sheep. And other sheep I have which are not of this fold, the fold that he was talking to at that time, that generation, I have to bring them as well. And they shall, in future tense, they shall hear my voice, meaning the last, the second manifestation, which is the voice. This is also very important. And there shall be one flock, one shepherd. And there shall be one flock, one shepherd, because there were two, Israelites and Gentiles, Israel and Yahudah, few and many. The generation of the past, the generation of the present, the first and the last, because many who are first will be last and last will be first, right? So, and there shall be one flock, one shepherd. Why does it say one shepherd? We could say, well, if we see it in the negative sense, because there were many false prophets, false messiahs, false shepherds. There were many who claimed to be shepherds, who claimed to be pastors, but actually were teaching falsehood. However, here, Yahushua is talking about the sheep of Yahweh, two separate parts, two different sheep, right? And he then mentions that there will be one flock, but he adds one shepherd, as in he had to come twice. That shepherd separated in two times, first for that fold, and now for this other fold that he's mentioning. Other sheep I have which are not of this fold. So two times on this earth he would come twice to lead the sheep, but then those two would have to become one, to be one shepherd, as it is prophesying here. And in Zechariah 14:9, let me see what we have here. Well, it has several, but in this case, let me go to Zechariah 14:9. Zechariah 14, verse 9. And Yahweh shall be sovereign in the end times, when everything has been fulfilled, when first and last has have manifested. Yahweh shall be sovereign over all the earth. In that day there shall be one Yahweh, and his name one. One shepherd, one Yahweh, because he separated in two. As I always mention, in Deuteronomy, Yahweh says, it is written, Yahweh Echad, Yahweh is one. But then in Isaiah, he separates when he's talking about manifesting on this earth, which has duality, beginning and end. So he says, "I am the first and the last," because he would come twice. But then Zechariah reveals that in the end, when everything has manifested and Yahweh fulfills everything, making unity within all of creation, at least showing that unity that there is in creation in the when he reaches the purpose for which he created everything, then he will be one because he will manifest as he is. For before that, he has manifested in part, first and last, right? Now we know in part, but then we will know as we were known. So now we see as in a mirror, dark, like with darkness, certain darkness or a veil, but then we will see face to face. So it says here, and Yahweh shall be sovereign over all the earth. In that day there shall be one Yahweh, and his name one. This unity of first and last, for there to be one shepherd, is also prophesied. Well, it's prophesied in many parts, but these two that I'm showing are very, very clear. At least I believe those are the most uh, clearest one of all the prophecies regarding this subject. And the word of Yahweh came to me, saying, in Ezekiel 37:15, now 16, and you, son of man, Ezekiel is the only prophet who receives that title. Obviously, son of man is a title that fits any male in this world because we were all born, right? From Adam, or well, we all came from Adam and are children of men. So if it's any human being, that's how normally people translate it also. But this, as we know, is a title for the second manifestation of Yahweh on this earth. Yahushua, who is the first manifestation, he is the seed of the woman, prophesied in Genesis 3. So Yahushua is the seed of the woman because he came through a virgin, but the last comes through a regular relationship between a man and a female, so he is the son of man. Now, Yahweh calls Ezekiel the son of man because Ezekiel represents the last, and that's why Yahweh gives to him this prophecy regarding the unity of first and last after he manifests and fulfills his part as Yahushua did his 2,000 years ago. So, and you, son of man, take a stick for yourself and write on it for Yehudah and for the children of Israel. Yahushua came through the tribe of Yehudah, and he came for the children of Israel, his companions. Then take another stick and write on it for Yahusef. Well, it says Yosef. For Yosef, the stick of Ephraim. Yosef is the ancestor of the last, and he comes through Ephraim. So for Yosef, the stick of Ephraim, and for all the house of Israel, his companions. Then bring them together for yourself into one stick, and they shall become one in your hand. The hand is the last. So through the last, first and last will become one. Meaning when the last manifests, then that will be able to be fulfilled, accomplished. And when the children of your people speak to you, saying, won't you show us what you mean by this? Say to them, thus said Yahweh, the sovereign Yahweh. See, I am taking the stick of Joseph, which is in the hand of Ephraim, the last, and the tribes of Israel, his companions, and I shall give them unto him, and the stick of Yehudah, and make them one stick, and they shall be one in my hand, the hand of Yahweh, the last. And you see how first he mentioned Yehudah and then Yosef, because those are the two tribes and the order in which the two would manifest. First through Yehudah, last through Yosef, through Ephraim. But then when he is explaining what it is, he mentions Yosef first and then Yehudah. Why? Because it is when the descendant of Yosef manifests when this will start to be accomplished as the hand. So going back to John. And other sheep I have which are not of this fold. I have to bring them as well, and they shall hear my voice, and there shall be one flock, one shepherd. Because of this, the Father loves me, because I lay down my life in order to receive it again. No one takes it from me. Like, well, here, because of this, the Father loves me because I lay down my life, right? Yahweh loves the fact that Yahushua, his son, is willing to give his life for us. So Yahweh loves that because Yahweh is love, and there is no greater love than to give your life for a friend. So Yahweh loves those who are willing to give their lives. And Yahushua is the main, obviously, because he is the only one who deserves to live forever. Yet he decided to give his life. When it comes to any other person who may be willing to give their life, they, as the rest of humanity, would have sinned some way, somehow. So the wages of sin is death. So it's just a matter of how that would come about. And they are willing, because of love, to die before their time or whatever it may be. So, because of this, the Father loves me, because I lay down my life in order to receive it again. That's interesting, because it not only means in order to be resurrected, but also in order to come again, to give his life again. No one takes it from me. This is important as well, because people would think that he lost his power or something happened and that's why they were able to kill him. No one takes it from me, but I lay it down of myself. I have authority to lay it down and I have authority to receive it again. This command I have received from my Father, right? To take life, to come to this world and then give his life in order to later on receive it again. Meaning, he came to bring resurrection to this reality for us to be able to get it as well for eternal life. No one takes it from me, but I lay it down of myself. I have authority to lay it down, and I have authority to receive it again. This command I have received from the Father. Again, there came a division among the Yahudim because of these words. And many of them said, he has a demon and is mad. Why do you listen to him? So you see how sad how people project their own insecurities, their own fears on others, how they judge others according to their wrong perspective in the flesh and the foolish heart, the feelings that it gives, the imagination, what it shows, etc. So it says, again, there came a division among the Yahudim because of these words. What words? That he is the door, that he is the shepherd, that life comes through him. And obviously, we need to also understand that in that time, like he said, everybody who came before me was a robber and a thief. Imagine what they all thought, well, or most of them. Like, who are you to call every prophet a robber and a thief? Who are you to say that nobody's as special as you? When they were pretty much, they would kind of worship Moshe, the letter. They obviously, sadly, had idolatry. So he is bringing down their idols, telling them they are all thieves and robbers. So they are saying, oh, you are the thief and the robber. You are the demon. I hope this understood. So again, there came a division among the Yahudim. Remember that Yahushua said, I did not come to bring peace. I came to bring division. And that's interesting as well because I already mentioned Yahweh divided his manifestation in two, as first and last. And remember that Daniel, the prophet, he prophesied that Mashiach Nagid would manifest on this earth when Yahushua did. Mashiach Nagid, two titles, anointed prince. And then Mashiach would be cut off, as cutting the word Mashiach from Mashiach Nagid. So creating a division between the last and the first. Because Yahushua the first is the Mashiach and the last is the Nagid, the prince. Again, there came a division among the Yahudim because of these words. And many of them said, he has a demon and is mad. Why do you listen to him? Now you see how the enemy works. Not only they would speak bad about him, they would claim that he would have a demon just because they couldn't understand it, just because they had issues in their own minds and hearts that they couldn't understand the wisdom that he was given. So they would claim he was the crazy one. He had to be crazy because they couldn't understand the word he was saying, right? And instead of just going away, they want everybody else to go with them. They want everybody else to reject him. So they say, why do you listen to him? Trying to put doubt, as the enemy does, trying to sow the seed of doubt in the minds of those who were actually listening and perhaps understanding something. He has a demon and is mad. Why do you listen to him? Others said, these are not the words of one possessed by a demon. They had more reason, right? They understood a demon possessed person doesn't act like that, even less talk like that. Others said, these are not the words of one possessed by a demon. Is a demon able to open the eyes of the blind? Remember that in the previous chapter, Yahushua opened the eyes of a blind person from birth, which was one of the four miracles that, according to the Yahudim, Messiah had to fulfill in order to reveal himself as such. These are not the words of one possessed by a demon. Is a demon able to open the eyes of the blind? In the spiritual sense, how is he able to give us so much wisdom and understanding through faith, um, opening the eyes, right? Spiritual eyes. How is he going to be demon possessed if he's able to reveal so much spiritually? At that time, the Hanukkah came to be. How interesting, huh? Um, we're getting closer to the feast of Hanukkah. And now we got to read this. Let's see. Hanukkah begins on December 11th. So we are here, right? We're on the 17th of Kislev. And Hanukkah starts on the 25th. So 8 days. Um, 8 days till Hanukkah. So 8 days from tomorrow, we got Hanukkah, the feast of dedication. Now, a lot of people are against it because of the traditions of men added by the Pharisees to the feast. Um, and others claiming that Hanukkah does not appear in the scriptures, but that has to do with the translation. And as you can see, it is in the scriptures in John 10. And actually, they kept the word just to make sure that people understand that it was celebrated in the time of Mashiach. The feast of dedication, during which candles are lit every evening to commemorate the Maccabean triumph over Greeks in 165 BM before Mashiach. So, Hanukkah is the feast of dedication. In the book of the Maccabees, which is where we find that book that they took from the scriptures, but it is found in some of the Catholic translations still. Some see those books as just history. However, there's a lot of prophetical stuff in those stories, as everything else in the scriptures, or as in every other book of the scriptures, there is prophecy. So, Hanukkah is a mirror of the feast of Sukkot. Hanukkah lasts 8 days because Sukkot is connected to Shemini Atzeret, which is the eighth assembly of the eighth day. So Sukkot and Shemini Atzeret, 8 days. Hanukkah has 8 days. They are a reflection of each other. Hanukkah, a reflection of Sukkot. And there is a lot of prophecy, I repeat, regarding the Exodus, the second Exodus in the end times, through the story of the Maccabees. In the book of the Maccabees, we see that um, the emperor of the Greeks made a sacrifice of a pig to Zeus in the temple of Yahweh, and that was called the abomination of desolation. We know that the temple of Yahweh is now, or we understand finally after Mashiach, that it is the body, right? Our body is the temple of Yahweh, which was represented by the temple of stone. The Greek connects to the apostasy, the falsehood that came to the doctrine and changed everything throughout the past 2,000 years. The emperor entered and sacrificed a pig. In Latin, which is the language of Rome, which also has a lot to do with the apostasy, um, He means earth, soil. Um, and Sus is pig. So Jesus would be pig of the earth. What it would mean, Jesus, which is how it's pronounced in Spanish, for instance, the name, the false name that the world uses. I say that because it is interesting that he sacrificed a pig, a Zeus of the earth, so Jesus in the temple. So that represents how they will make the image of the beast, a human body, a temple, and then the abomination of desolation, the spirit of the enemy will enter. The pig will enter that temple, that body, and will manifest in the world as the Christ, right? That being obviously the false Messiah. So in the book of the Maccabees, we find a representation of the false Messiah as the abomination of desolation, and what will happen, the emperor of the Greeks as the first beast of Revelation 13. So, with all of that said, we see that in the time of Mashiach, right after he mentioned being the door and the good shepherd, then came the feast of Hanukkah, the feast of dedication. So after the first and the last have manifested as the door and the good shepherd, then comes the second Exodus, then comes the harvest. As we just saw, the breaker would manifest and he will go before them. So he dies and then they go on the Exodus. So we see here Hanukkah as a representation of that. At that time, the Hanukkah came to be in Jerusalem and it was winter. It was winter, as you can see in our calendar. Um, Winter starts during the last day of Hanukkah. So if we go by that, they were on the last day of Hanukkah, which represents Shemini Atzeret, the day of the seventh trumpet, the harvest. You see how, just in case, the green represents spring, the orange represents summer, yellow represents autumn, fall, and the blue here represent winter. So Hanukkah, and this is the Spanish calendar. So my bad, but this is Hanukkah on the first day of the 10th. It's not Janukkah. All right. So at that time, the Hanukkah came to be in Jerusalem, and it was winter. And Yahushua was walking in the set apart place in the porch of Shlomo. So if it was a sin to celebrate Hanukkah, why would Yahushua be in the temple during the feast? And Yahushua was walking in the set apart place in the porch of Shlomo. That's interesting because, um, well, remember that he just talked about being the door and then the shepherd. Now he's walking as the shepherd through the porch of Shlomo, right? Shlomo being the son of David. Shlomo uh, meaning peace, shalom. And Yahushua was walking in the set apart place in the porch of Shlomo. So the Yahudim surrounded him and said to him, "How long do you keep us in suspense? If you are the Messiah, say it to us plainly." Right? He had done so many things that it was enough. He had even said it in some cases in a subtle way, but they want him to say it openly in the feast. Now, this is, I repeat, the Feast of Hanukkah represents the end times, a feast that will manifest in the end times. They are even asking him on the what seems to be the last day because it was winter already. So the feast that represents the seventh trumpet, as Revelation 10 says, that when the seventh trumpet sounds, every single thing that the prophets said will be manifested, would have been fulfilled. Every prophet will be revealed. So the Yahudim surrounded him and said to him, "How long do you keep us in suspense? If you are the Messiah, say to us plainly." Yahushua answered them, "I have told you." I love it. Right? It's like really? Do you want me to say it again? I have told you, and you do not believe. The works that I do in my Father's name, Yahweh, they bear witness concerning me. The works that I do in my Father's name, they bear witness concerning me. Right? And this is because that was just the first manifestation. So there was John the Baptist who prepared the way, but that was just one testimony from somebody who was connected to the previous dispensation of human history, those of the flesh. Like I mentioned, he was the end of that, and Yahushua was the beginning of the next one of the spiritual, as he is the last Adam. He came to begin everything over again, but spiritually. John the Baptist came to end it. So even though he prepared the way for Mashiach, he was not of the time of Mashiach, truly, and that's why he said, "I am not worthy to tie his sandals," right? So the Ruach is the other one who gives testimony, but only those who were of the Father received that portion of Ruach in order to recognize Mashiach. So there were just few of them. So the only thing that was left for the rest of people was to believe in his works, in his miracles by sight, right? So that's why he tells them, "The works that I do in my Father's name, they bear witness concerning me." That should be what you should be seeing to believe, right? When it came to the disciples, they received revelation of him being the Messiah, but not everybody got that. And even when they got it, they still doubted at times. So Yahushua answered them, "I have told you, and you do not believe. The works that I do in my Father's name, they bear witness concerning me. But you do not believe, because you are not of my sheep, as I said to you." That is just plainly like they were asking for. But now they're going to get angry. They wanted the truth, but they cannot take the truth. So they cannot handle the truth, right? So it says, "But you do not believe, because you are not of my sheep." So he's like saying, what's the point of me telling you if you're not going to believe it? You are not going to hear it because you are not my sheep. You don't recognize my voice. But you do not believe because you are not of my sheep. So you see how he is speaking in this second part of the chapter as the good shepherd, because he's in Hanukkah on the porch of Shlomo, son of David, as the branch of David, as the voice. My sheep hear my voice, right? So, but you do not believe because you are not of my sheep, as I said to you. He already told them through the parable, but they didn't understand the parable. With this, they might understand a little bit more, at least that they are not supposed to understand the manifestation of Mashiach. My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. My sheep hear my voice, and I know them. So when Yahushua, as he says in Revelation 22, sends his messenger is his voice. He comes with the voice of thunder, with the voice of the archangel, with the voice of the shofar, the voice of the trumpet. My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me, as the 144,000 who follow the Lamb wherever he goes, as Revelation says. And I give them everlasting life, and they shall by no means ever perish, and no one shall snatch them out of my hand. No one shall snatch them out of my hand. Those who are his cannot be taken from him. He is too powerful for that. And that's wonderful. Nothing can separate us from the love of Yahweh. Death, nor life, nor angels, nor principalities, nor authorities, nor the past, nor the present, nor the future. Nothing can separate us from his love. And remember, as we will see eventually in the last chapter of this book, unlike the first time when Yahushua saw his disciples and he chose them and he told them to put the um well, to get the fish from the other side of the boat, and a lot of fish came out of the net because it broke. That doesn't happen at the end in the last chapter, chapter 21. None of the fish are lost, which is pretty much as it is being said here, and no one shall snatch them out of my hand. My Father, who has given them to me, is greater than all. Beautiful. Nobody can take his sheep. Those who are his, which are those who accept Yahushua HaMashiach, are in good hands. My Father, who has given them to me, is greater than all, and no one is able to snatch them out of my Father's hand. So you see how he first said my hand and then he says my Father's hand? Because Yahweh and Mashiach, the Creator and the Lamb, are sitting on the throne, and the throne is the last. So he has the double portion, which is represented by the name Ephraim, by the name Yahusef. In fact, he will add another portion. He will add another son, right? So I and my Father are one, right? He says that, which connects to, and there will be one shepherd, as goes with Zechariah 14:9, and there will be one Yahweh, and his name one. I and my Father are one. Now, you remember how I mentioned here? I already deleted it. Okay, let me see. The name Yahushua, the numerical value, as you can confirm here with this calculator, is 391. So if you add that, right, 3 plus 9 plus 1, that's 13, right? Now, it says, I and my Father are one. Now, this word right here is my Father. You saw how it says Father, but when I add the U, which would be mine, uh, is Avi, my Father. And as you can see as well, this word, the numerical value is 13. And then we have Echad, which is one. Echad, which is one, is also 13. So I, 13, and Abi, my father, 13, are one, 13. It would be like saying 13 and 13 and 13, right? 13 is equal to 13, which is equal to 13. Now, I and my father are one. And as we know, Yahweh, the numerical value of the name Yahweh, is 26, which is 13 plus 13. I and my Father. Remember that Yahushua came as the Son, the last comes as the Father. That's why I and my Father are one, because first and last are one at the end, as the door and the good shepherd. I and my Father. That's why nobody can take it from my Father's hand, because my Father comes as the good shepherd who takes the sheep, and no one can take them from him through the voice, which is the last, the messenger of Mashiach. I and my Father are one. Like I said, Yahushua came as the first, the last comes as the Father, the first came as the Son. That's why Yahweh says, sit at my right hand until I put your enemies as your footstool. So Yahushua as the Son sits at the right hand, and then Yahweh manifests as the Father because he becomes the Father of the 144,000, the spiritual Father. So I and my Father are Echad. Again, the Yahudim picked up stones to stone him. They understood that because one of the main prayers as the first commandment, pretty much, is the Shema Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Yahweh Eloheinu, Yahweh Echad. Deuteronomy 6. Yahweh is one. But now he is saying, I and my Father Echad. Right? He's not saying, listen, Israel, Yahweh, your Elohim, he is one. Yahweh, your Elohim Echad. Now he's saying, now listen, Israel, I and my Father are Echad. So he's claiming to be Elohim, right? As John already said it, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with Elohim, and the Word was Elohim. That's why Elohim is plural, because Yahweh was right next to his son when he said, sit at my right hand, as David prophesied. Again, the Yahudim picked up stones to stone him. Yahushua answered them. I love this answer. Many good works I have shown you from my Father. You see how even though he says, I and my Father are one, he doesn't take the credit for himself. I have done this because of the Father, with the power of the Father. My Father sent me. He told me to do it. Many good works I have shown you from my Father. Because of which of these works do you stone me? The Yahudim answered him, which I find also interesting, the way they thought that they actually answered that question. The Yahudim answered him, saying, we do not stone you for a good work, but for blasphemy, and because you, being a man, make yourself Elohim. But weren't you asking if he was the Messiah? They were asking for it. Now he answers, and now they want to kill him. The interesting thing is that this verse says, this chapter shows how they didn't understand what the Messiah is. They still don't understand what the Messiah is, because they asked if he was the Messiah, and he actually told them that he is the Messiah by telling them that he is one with the Father. But to them that was too much, because to them that's not the Messiah. The Messiah is something way much lower, because they do not want to follow no man. They do not want to obey. They reject all authority, even that of Yahweh. Obviously, because they cannot obey the authority of man. How can they obey the authority of the one whom they cannot see? Yahushua answered them, is it not written in your own Torah, I said you are Elohim? This is wonderful again, because they said, we're gonna stone you for blasphemy because you are a man and you are claiming to be Elohim, right? So Yahushua goes on to use the Tanakh, which they knew, some of them by heart. Yahushua answered them, is it not written in your own Torah? You see how it doesn't say our, it's interesting, but your. Is it not written in your own Torah, I said you are Elohim? It's interesting that he doesn't just say you are Elohim, but he adds, I said, to show them that it was him who said it, because he is the one who sent the Ruach which inspired the scriptures. So isn't it written in your Torah, I said, so how can you now stone me for repeating something I said and you claim to believe? Right? You are Elohim. That's in Psalm 82:6. It says, I'll read the whole psalm. Elohim stands in the congregation of El, of the mighty one. He judges in the midst of the Elohim, of the angels. How long would you judge perversely and show partiality to the wrong? Give right ruling to the poor and fatherless. Do right to the afflicted and needy. Rescue the poor and needy. Deliver them from the hand of the wrong. They do not know, nor do they understand, just like we are seeing in this chapter of John. They do not know. They do not understand. They walk about in darkness. They are blinded by their sin. As he said that he came to give sight to the blind, yet they were blind. All the foundations of the earth are shaken. I, I said, you are Elohim, and all of you are sons of the Most High. But as men you die and fall as one of the heads. Now, this is interesting because he's actually talking to angels. That's why he's saying, but as men you die, because they were not men. So they had to die like men. So it connects to the angels that come to the earth, become men so that they can die. And fall as one of the heads, as one of those leaders of angels that fell. That's why John the Baptist, who represents Hallel, got his head cut off to represent that Lucifer fell. And then another interpretation is the fact that it's talking to men. That's why the Torah, in this case, the Psalms, were given to men. So by saying, I say you are Elohim, is also directed to men, in this case, judges. That's why it was talking about doing right ruling. So the title Elohim fits judges, people, humans with authority. All of you are sons of the Most High, but as men you die and fall as one of the heads. Arise, O Elohim, judge the earth, for you shall possess all the nations. So you see how the end of this psalm connects to the end of time of this reality, because it is when Yahweh will finally possess all the nations, which are the other sheep that need to be united with the sheep that Yahushua came to bring through the first manifestation, becoming the door also for the Gentiles to enter. So we see, judge the earth, end times, for you shall possess all the nations. That's end times as well. And Yahushua is making reference to that when the feast of Hanukkah was happening, after he spoke about being the good shepherd and is acting as the good shepherd. Yahushua answered them, is it not written in your own Torah? I said, you are Elohim. So he got them because they wanted to kill him for something that is written that they didn't understand because they knew it. If he called them Elohim, to whom the word of Elohim came, because, like I just mentioned, even though he was talking to the angels, those verses were written and given to men. So he's also talking to men, in this case, judges. If he called them Elohim, to whom the word of Elohim came, and it is impossible for the scripture to be broken, do you say of him whom the Father set apart and sent into the world, you are blaspheming because I said, I am the Son of Elohim? If I do not do the works of my Father, do not believe me. If I do not do the works of my Father, do not believe me. But if I do, though you do not believe me, believe the works, so that you know and believe that the Father is in me and I in him. Right? If you don't want to believe me, at least believe the works that I do. Those powerful miracles should show you that the Father is in me. So if you don't want to believe me, believe the Father who is in me. Therefore, they were seeking again to seize him. Again. But they knew that he was right, and that made it worse for them because they realized they were wrong, which is something. And not only they realized it, people around realized that he got them. Therefore, they were seeking again to seize him, but he went forth out of their hand. They weren't able to catch him that day. And went once more to the other side of the Yarden. Now, the chosen few during the harvest, which will be on the Shemini Atzeret, which was represented by this day in which this happened, it's interesting that it says, therefore they were seeking again to seize him, just like they will try to seize the congregation, which is the body of Mashiach. But he went forth out of their hand. The chosen few will receive the eagle's wings so that she can go away from the hand of the beast. And went once more to the other side, just like the chosen few will go to the other side of this reality, to the spiritual reality. And once more, and went once more to the other side of the Yarden, to the place where Yahuhanan was immersing at first. And there he stayed. Now it's interesting now that I think about it that I mentioned Yahuhanan, John the Baptist represents Halel. Halel is in the second heaven. He will be expelled from it in Revelation 12. That is when the chosen few will go up. When Satan goes down, the chosen few go up. As we see in Revelation 15, they are already over the firmament, which is where Halel was. So just like it says here, and when once more to the other side of the Yarden, to the place where Yahuhanan was immersing at first, and there he stayed. And many came to him and said, Yahuhanan indeed did no sign. Yohanan indeed did no sign. Yet all that Yohanan said about this man was true. So you see now they mention the witness of Yohanan regarding Mashiach, not only the works that he did, but what Yohanan said as well, besides what the Father would reveal through his Ruach. And many came to him and said, Yohanan indeed did no sign, yet all that Yohanan said about this man was true. And many believed in him there. So many. Those are the many who do not believe through the Ruach that Yahweh gives them, but believe because of works. Seeing is believing to them, right? They believe, uh, in this case, even though they were talking about the testimony of Yohanan, they believe because they saw what he did, which was what Yohanan had told them. So it is like believing the works because of what the prophets said, which the many have, right? The many believe in the scriptures and what the prophet said regarding Mashiach coming to die for our sins. So that's how the chapter ends. Let me see if there are questions, comments. Yirmiyahu says, verse 10 says, he is the good shepherd 2 times for the first and the last. That's right, brother. That's why then he said, and there will be one shepherd, right? Just like he mentioned, truly, truly, I am the good shepherd. And then he said it again, I am the good shepherd. Later on, he said, there will be one shepherd, because he mentioned the good shepherd twice, because he would come as first and last.